how is air travel going to change? How is travel, I guess, by ship or in any other way going to change moving forward? What do you see as the things that kind of catch your mind when you ponder that question?
So, shall I start?
Please.
Yeah?
Please do it.
Okay,
yeah.
Good. So, first of all, very happy to be here. So, I'm with Airbus. So, you know, I think that 56% of the people in the room that flew into Dubai used an Airbus aircraft. So, that's already a good data point. So, air travel has gone through a massive challenge. COVID, we all know it. But the recovery has also been extremely fast. As just another data point, before COVID, we had 5 billion people traveling a year. Last year, we surpassed the 5 billion, and the expectation is that in the next 20 years, this number of passengers will double. So you can imagine this means a lot of need of new aircraft, but also a lot of infrastructure needed on the airport side, and of course also a lot of more traffic in terms of cargo. So the market is very active, very dynamic, and I'm sure we'll discuss about it in the coming half an hour. This also brings a lot of things to be done on innovation, sustainability, energy. So a vast topic.
Can I just pull a string here, since a lot of people who travel a lot are airplane nerds, and I would count myself as one of them, is if we're going to double the number of people traveling, what's going to happen with the planes we're flying? And I would say that I flew on an A380 for the first time on the upper deck, and it was fantastic. Yeah. But you clearly have discontinued this plane on the assumption that the hub and spoke model won't be as appealing anymore. People will expect more direct travel. What sort of planes are we looking at? How many planes are we looking at?
So if you want just a couple of figures, so today we have about 24,000 aircraft flying, commercial aircraft. And our estimation is that in the next 20 years, we will need to build 42,000 additional planes, which is, of course, a large part is replacing the older generation aircraft. What is flying today, 34% is new generation, so that means there's 66% that can be improved by bringing new generation. But there's also a lot of capacity growth. If we look at the Middle East, clearly there's a growth which is faster than around the world. And there are pockets of Asia, for example, is growing strongly. The US and Europe is more stable. But in terms of a market, there is really growth. And as a company, we have to deliver the aircraft. We have to do this, of course, safely. And we have to work on the future evolutions in terms of innovation, next generation, in order to answer to the customer's demand. And all this in a sustainable way.
That's a good segue, Francesco. When you think about doubling number of passengers, doubling number of aircraft, and given the debates, some of them were held in this country, during COP a couple years ago, of how we're going to do this, how we're going to have more people moving, more people polluting. It doesn't seem sustainable, so to speak, to continue on the same model of travel, transport that we were, let's say, the 20th century one. What is the ideal 21st century model of transport going to look like, or should look like?
So, first of all, I think that we have to put this in a more general context.
That felt pretty general to me.
Because, here is not only the question to move people, but also to move commodities and to move also electrons, to move molecules, everything that is needed to make this transition happening at a speed and scale that is consistent with the achievement of the Paris Agreement goal. We are trying to make clear that the first structural barrier to speed up and scale up the energy transition is just the infrastructure. So we don't have grids that are interconnected. We have not grids that are really flexible, balance. We don't have a system of pipelines, port, harbor that make the molecule of the electron moving. And this also going to affect the air traffic. So also the moving people by plane pose the problem of reducing the CO2 emissions. When we talk about sustainability, probably we'll talk about that. And this means that how we can green the aviation. And we think that also this year with the COP30 going to be hosted in Brazil, by the bioenergy, the biofuel will become one of the elements that will be discussed, that will be more in focus. Possible COP30 may come also with the targets concerning biofuel. So we think that on moving plane, I think that the biofuel could be one of the most suitable solutions.
What is the timetable for that?
The timetable is already now, no? It depends on how much you are able to make possible to move the molecule and the electrons from one place to another. Because also, we can also think about saving a plant for bioenergy very close to the airport, for example, close to hub. We are also discussing, honestly, with the ICAO, how we can support some pilots on already to see how this could work. So naturally, I think that the direction is there, and we have to see how we can do fast.
Dr., your company has a commercial reason to care about this. Cheaper fuel, cheaper consumption is good for business. You can sell more planes. Where are you seeing the most promise in this space?
So look, if I just come back one step on the sustainability effort that we make. So there's different topics. First of all, the replacing of existing aircraft that I mentioned. Then, of course, we continue to improve the performance of the existing aircraft. We look at new technological developments, lighter materials, better systems. We have put onto the market systems that can enable optimization of flight. So, descent profile optimization in order to consume less. So there's a lot of technological things that we bring, services, of course, the improvement of on the existing aircraft. Then we're working on the evolution of the current aircraft, the current generation. And we look at the next step, which is, as I mentioned, hydrogen, which is going to happen later in time, but which will contribute to the decarbonization of the industry. Then, to come to your point, the fuel is very important. Today, the biggest impact can be done if we substantially increase the availability of SAF, sustainable aviation fuel. That's the way to decarbonize on the short term the industry. Because, our aircraft can already operate on 50% SAF. By the end of the decade, so by 2030, we will be able to operate on 100%. We've already done it, so it's a matter of regulation, I would say. So technologically wise, not a problem. But we need SAF to be available. We need in large quantities and at the right price. So that's I think, the critical topic in the aviation sector today. From an Airbus perspective, we are doing a lot to develop this market, to motivate the people. We are putting even money into this. But we are not an energy company, so we really need the ecosystem to develop. And there's a number of countries around the world where there's good potential, and that will have an enormous impact on our industry. So we really hope that people in the room, governments, will put in place the right rules and regulations to incentivize and make sure that the SAF develops.
Francesco, do you agree with these three categories, right? The stuff itself, is there enough of it? Where do you get it? Two, the technology that is going to continue to evolve to try to sort of make it possible to use it. And three, the infrastructure. Which of those should be the easiest? Which is the hardest nut to crack? Assuming you agree with that.
First of all,
schema.
I think that we are almost on the same line. I think there is I don't see differences in the approach. So we think SAF, the sustainable aviation fuel, as the solution. Also, when we talk about hydrogen, I think for the plane, biofuel could be much easier. I will fly more comfortable in a plane with biofuel than others, honestly, to be frank. And naturally, we need to have the capacity. Now, I think the problem linked to the conflict between bioenergy and food is not anymore there with the new technologies. This could be is solved currently. The problem is how to move the fuel from one place to another when you produce a reasonable cost, naturally, because we cannot make the cost going up and up. In this context, as for the hydrogen, for a different hand, we need that the policies are in place, because it could be still possible that in the very short term there is a lack of competitiveness in going for biofuel or hydrogen. But it's just, say, a few years, as it was for renewables, 10, 15 years ago, they were not competitive. Now it's the most competitive way to produce electricity, Yeah. This means that, and the path for bioenergy and hydrogen could be faster than has been for renewables.
You may have more of a cross-sectoral view of this when you think about, ship transport, rail, obviously cars. Is that conversation the same as when you're talking about air travel and transport? Are there other things happening in those areas that?
Concerning shipping, I think that there is not yet full clarity on the way to follow, in the sense that they've not been able to elect the best solution for shipping. So they are moving from the hybrid, hydrogen, biofuel. There is not yet a clear indication. So we need an assessment where the policy at a certain moment will be able to fix the right mix. When you talk about, again, transport, look at Dubai, the port of Dubai. And they are moving everything with electricity. Also the container, they are moving with electricity. That is from renewables. So there is a lot to do in the sector, in all area. So not only aviation, and there is also another element that should be considered when you talk about train and others. That's what we thought was not possible to reach with electrification is coming more and more possible. So this is another trend that we have to take into account when we are looking for the right mix of different sources for the transport sector as such.
Yeah.
Maybe if you allow me just to, so hydrogen definitely is a solution for the shipping or for the road transportation, and also longer term for aviation. But it's all down to physics. The energy density of hydrogen is what it is. So if you would like to do a hydrogen flight from Dubai to New York with a hydrogen plane, you would need to fill the full plane with hydrogen, and no passengers, no cargo. So hydrogen on the shorter distances, 2,000.
Also because the passengers will not go up the plane. We stay on.
So yes, it's touching different industries, and it's a longer-term solution. But the ecosystem needs to be there. Like for ships, you need to have the hydrogen at the right place to fill them.
So no panel in this building can take place without the mention of AI. How is AI going to potentially come up with solutions to these problems? I mean, you can be specific in your answer, even though the question was not.
But I think that the artificial intelligence should be, say, an instrument that we may apply to many different realities, industrial processes, managing of the grids, managing of the transport. So it will be a possible way to make many aspects of our life to be more economical and more effective.
Is there an example you can think of, either you now, where it is being applied, and wow, they just figured out how to reduce traffic on the Abu Dhabi-Dubai highway by 30%.
For example,
it's a wish fantasy, not true, by the way.
One example is
yes.
that we are starting to think, we have initiated the discussion with Google. They have a project called Tapestry, how we can apply artificial intelligence for design the strengthening of the infrastructure in some parts of Africa. This is one example that I can just present to you today.
So I actually came from Paris. You know, there was a big AI summit yesterday.
Of course, yeah.
And I think it's fascinating. I mean, it's great opportunities, but also great challenges to manage AI. So at Airbus, we've already been using AI for more than 30 years across the activities. We use it internally, of course, to improve the way our teams work, like you know, with the specific computer-aided vision. We use it in the development. So we are using it a lot to improve and increase the safety of our operations, but of course also of our products. But all this needs to be done also in an ethical way. It has a consequence on people. So we have embraced it very strongly, but it needs to be done in a very cautious way also.
Does it design planes right now?
Sorry?
Does it design planes?
Not yet, no. This is our engineers doing it. But it helps, of course, because, you know, you can calculate, you can simulate very much faster than in the past.
Yeah.
You know, certain pieces that in the past you need to forge to see how it really functions in reality. Now it can be done with a lot of models, AI, and we win a lot of time in terms of the development of new products.
Yeah.
Also, as for our modeling, our outlook, we are considering how to use artificial intelligence for making them more precise, more, let's say, giving more elements. So we will see that naturally there is lots of attention, enthusiasm. Naturally, we also have to be prudent. I think rules and regulations should be put in place for making the sector work in the right way.
I mean, people talk a lot about seamlessness. That's what they desire most in their travel experience, in obviously moving goods around. It seems to me that is also where AI could be quite, I mean, even improving the airport experience, for example. You know, the getting on and off the plane.
I think, you know, actually everything can be looked at and potentially, I think, improved with AI. The movements in the airport, not only the goods, the passengers, the whole flow, the passenger experience. So not only the technical side, it touches everything. Huh?
Yeah. Super. Well, thank you to both of you. This has been a really great conversation, and really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.